speech is violence, according to the transgender movement. If you don't agree that a man can become a woman just by saying so, and if you don't use his preferred pronouns, you're a bigot or worse. Groups like the Human Rights Campaign claim that transgender people face an epidemic of violence, and they blame this on the hate of Americans voicing their disagreement. This rhetoric has real costs. A teenage girl in Florida allegedly confessed to killing her own mother, in part because her mother misgendered her. Julia Grace Egler, then 16, confessed to shooting her mother, Kelly McCollum, and her mother's young boyfriend, Matthew Segenrock, on July 17, 2024. Egler has pleaded not guilty to murder charges, but a police detective wrote that she confessed to the murders, and police gave the Daily Signal footage of the interrogation. The police footage does not include the audio of her confession, but it shows her slowly moving toward making it. It also shows her explaining that a key facet of the dispute with her mother involved misgendering.
To what it is that is unfair. What is it that you're doing or that she's doing that's not fair to you?
Well, me and her would have a lot of arguments about things, especially over like me being trans. So she'd be like,
okay,
you're not a real boy and blah 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 and all, you know, the whole spiel of transphobic stuff.
Okay.
But
she doesn't approve of your lifestyle, she doesn't approve of that.
Would you say
she was like trying to kind of meet me in the middle, but it wasn't really working all that well all the time. She would try to call me child instead of, because it's more like gender neutral rather than kind of meeting in the middle, I guess.
Okay. So, I could tell obviously this frustrated you. Is this a root of a lot of the arguments? Or does it maybe not the root, or ends up being brought up in these arguments?
It's the thing that was brought up a lot in arguments.
Is she misgendering you?
Yeah.
So when you guys are arguing, is she intentionally, calling you she, or not using the appropriate pronouns, or not referring to you as Jasper and referring to you as Julia?
And like, actually kind of being like, this is gonna be kind of vulgar, but she'd be like, oh, you have breasts and a vagina and blah, and all that, all that bullshit. Kind of shoving it in my face, and I'd yell back, I know, you don't think I know that? Because obviously it's kind of painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you experience it in the feminine hormone aspect of things, so of course you're constantly reminded when it's, that time of the month and stuff like that, so I can understand the frustration and the annoyance really of her trying to remind you when you already know that mentally. You already experienced that on a day-to-day basis.
I already beat myself up about it enough. I don't need you doing it too.
Okay.
Egler is not the only person to identify as transgender and engage in violence. In February, Jesse Van Rootselaar, a man who identified as a woman, carried out one of Canada's worst mass shootings at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School, killing 6. Tyler Robinson, who faces murder charges for the Charlie Kirk assassination, reportedly lived with a boyfriend who identifies as transgender. Robinson appears to have been motivated by this relationship. Robin Westman, a man who identified as a woman, killed 2 children at Annunciation Church in Minneapolis last summer. Mia Bailey, a man who identifies as female, was convicted of murdering his parents in June 2024. Audrey Hale, a woman who identified as male, shot and killed 6 at a Presbyterian school in Nashville in March 2023. Nicholas Roski, a man who identifies as a woman, attempted to assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. A judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison. Alexia Willie, a man who identifies as a woman, repeatedly threatened to abuse girls in girls' restrooms, carry out shootings at schools, and bomb churches. His stated desire was to target Christians who disagree with transgender ideology. A judge sentenced him to 1 year in prison for these threats in June 2024. Most people who identify as transgender do not pose a threat to their fellow Americans, but the transgender movement's extreme rhetoric helps make sense of this rash of violence.